Hey, how's it going? Oh, I accidentally turned on some kind of voice search on my computer. That is not what I wanted. I didn't know I could do that. I'm still learning how my Chromebook works. I just said hello, and my computer popped up with, "Hey, how can I help you find things?" And then it was typing what I was saying. A little creepy, actually. A little big brothery. Not digging it. Not at all. Hey, Mary. Thank you for coming. I have in my watch later queue a video you posted earlier this evening. It looks really good. I can't remember what I was doing when it first dropped. I think maybe I was getting my kiddo ready for bed or getting him a bath or something. I don't know. It's all been a blur today, but it's in my watch later queue. If you want to drop your link to it, go for it. Aw, thanks, sis. Hey, Janet G. Good to see you. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Mary. It is that time of day again, or night, depending on where you are in the world. Hi, Mockmere Dockicle. I'm totally like butchering it, but I'm trying. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming to hang out. I always love when y'all come to hang out. Hey, look, it's Kimmy's Playhouse. New sub here. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is a pretty random channel, Kimmy's Sub Playhouse. I will just let you know. I like to do karaoke videos. I also like to talk about books and I like to talk about mental health. And then when we do lives like this, it's usually just sometimes I'll come in with the topic that we start with, but really usually it's just kind of whatever we want to talk about, as long as people are kind and polite and respectful to one another. That's all that I ask. I'm not a stickler on cussing or anything like that, but don't go crazy, have a vocabulary. But welcome. Hey, Slow Mo. I don't know if I've ever seen you before, Slow Mo. It's good to see you. Good to have you here. Let's see. Let's see. Everybody's saying hi. Cool. Oh, cool. I found your channel, was excited because I saw you sing. Aw, thanks. And I saw some videos on borderline personality disorder books. I sing, have borderline personality disorder, and read as well. I love it. You've come to the right place. Perfect. Yeah, I felt really passionate about exploring that topic. And I still feel very passionate about exploring it further because I think borderline personality disorder gets an unfair rap. Um, in the media and with a lot of clinicians and doctors and things like that. And people are people and people need to be supported and people need help no matter what they have going on and why. And I hadn't heard a lot of description in popular media about what it feels like inside of that kind of, those kind of symptoms and those kind of feelings. And I think it's important. So welcome. I'm glad you are here. Glad you're here. I wondered if you had ever read uh the novel version of Girl Interrupted, since that's what she was diagnosed with. I mean, it was in the 60s, so who knows how accurate it would be now, but um I thought that was a really interesting perspective. And it was kind of my first exposure to it actually. And I remember reading that book for the first time and thinking, "Oh, well, I identify with all of that. That makes sense to me. All of that makes sense to me." So, who knows? Who knows? Hey, Miss Dragon, good to see you. Much love to you too, Miss Dragon. Michael's Adventures, good to see you. Just got home. Critters are fed. I'm glad the critters are fed. I'm looking forward to seeing more of our raccoon friends and deer friends and all our happy critters. All our happy critters. Kimmy's Playhouse says, yes, I'm starting to put out more videos on borderline personality disorder myself. I steer. Oh, you start dialectical behavior training finally next week. That's awesome, Kimmy's Playhouse. I'm so excited for you. Yeah, thanks for dropping her Kimmy's Playhouse link in the chat. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. Let's check that out. I will definitely check out your videos too. I'm really excited to see that. Thank you. Hey, Danielle. Good to see you. Okay, so you read it, but when you were a teenager in denial, you had borderline personality disorder until last year. I'm 39 now. Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I'm 37 and I kind of feel like I'm just now figuring out my issues too. uh, I when I'm kind of like doing a deep dive back into personality disorders and what that means and what that looks like. And a lot of what I saw is that, within the different like clusters, like categories of personality disorders, if you meet criteria for one personality at one time, you're more likely to also meet criteria for another one at another time. So it's kind of interesting that it can overlap that way. I have never been formally diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, although I relate a lot to the feeling of dysregulation, the feeling of like lack of a sense of self. That kind of like everything just feels like an emergency right when it happens. And it feels like it's never going to get better. I identify with that a lot. I have been formally diagnosed once with dependent personality disorder, which made sense because at the time I had come out of a very, I'll say, intense kind of toxic relationship that turned abusive, and I could very easily be called codependent. Codependence isn't an official diagnosis. The closest thing they have to it is dependent personality disorder. So that's a little bit of my stuff. So I'll probably do a deep dive into that one pretty soon too. Um, but I think the next one I want to do is actually narcissistic personality disorder because there's a lot of popular press out there about it, and I think also a lot of misconceptions as well. So I think that's kind of what I'm thinking about. See what's happening in the chat here. Hey, thanks, Michael's Adventures. Thanks for, yeah, if you are enjoying the content, please hit the thumbs up. I would appreciate that very much, Lee. Kimmy's Playhouse says there's a lot of shaming with cluster B disorders. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Especially people with borderline personality disorder, shaming those with narcissistic personality disorder when we share traits. Yeah, yeah, I can see that too. And it's kind of like you have to be in a very specific kind of place to be able for us to be able to like look at ourselves like really honestly and like for me to realize like yeah, I probably do throw people for a loop sometimes with my mood swings. Like out in the world, like, in professional settings and things like that, like I'm fine. I don't typically like I can, keep everything pretty even keel, but in closer relationships is where I have struggled in the past. When I'm really comfortable with a person, that's when they get to see my volatility for real. My husband could tell you stories, but he's kind, so he won't. But yeah, I think that and narcissism does seem to be a buzzword these days. Hey, I haven't seen so Michael's Adventures, I'm not seeing where anyone is saying that. I do not have a problem with my mods saying subscribers. It does not bother me. I haven't found anything in the guidelines or anywhere that makes me concerned about it. So I'm fine with my mods doing it. Um, so if it makes you uncomfortable and it makes you want to leave, I understand. I'm sorry you feel that way, but I don't have a problem with them writing. I don't even see where anyone's written it. If you'd like to reach out to me individually and kind of let me know more about what your concern is, feel free to send me an email. My email is kristenmelinda47@gmail.com and we can talk about it there. But please don't please don't slap the wrists of my mods. They haven't done anything I have not wanted them to. Anyway, narcissist does seem to be a buzzword these days. I think that I was kind of just saying that yesterday that I feel like now for sure it does exist for sure. Um, but there's also a difference between like narcissistic personality disorder, like as a diagnosis, and narcissism just as like a word in popular culture. Like people use the word narcissism in popular culture to refer to like people that are always taking selfies and like, that kind of thing. But that's not necessarily the same as something that rises to the level of a diagnosable disorder. So, um, and and I do hear a lot of people saying that their exes are narcissists, and I'm sure some of that is correct. But everyone's ex can't be a narcissist, like, just statistically, that's not possible. So I think it's worth looking into more deeply. Different name, similar bullshit, so less judging. Oh, I gotcha, with the different diagnoses. Is that what you meant, mocked? Am I missing that? I may have missed something earlier in the chat. Oh, wow. Don Glove says, I was told today that the kiddo likely has borderline personality disorder cluster B, but because she's under 18, he has to call it something else for now. Wow. I mean, I don't know how old he is, or she. I'm sorry. I don't know how old she is, but yeah, typically they'll stay away from diagnosing a personality disorder until somebody is an adult, because by definition, it's a pervasive and persistent way of approaching relationships in the world. And you kind of don't have a pervasive way you do it all the time until you're older. Um, what I have recently, because I did recently like go back and do some additional education on borderline personality disorder, that you can like sort of see traits of it in kids, like, as they're developing, like, we can have the, like, predisposition or the potential to develop it. Um, a lot of kids with borderline personality disorder, I think, and what I have seen and what I have read, they start out as highly sensitive kids. Like, you know, they have a we have a thinner skin, right? Like, we're the kids that people might say stuff like, "Oh, you're so sensitive." Like, our feelings get hurt really easily, or we get overwhelmed really easily. And, a kid that's has those tendencies, they could go on to develop it as like a full-on personality disorder, but, there's things that we can do to kinda try to support them, and I'm sure that the person diagnosing your kiddo or the therapist has some good insight into that. Oh, she'll be 17 in September, so that's kind of on the borderline, no pun intended, about on when they'll diagnose that kind of thing. I'm sorry, guys, I'm just catching up because there were some good comments I didn't wanna miss. Hey, Slow-Mo. Slow-Mo says, "I'm new here. I've been told I'm a narc, but I'm too awesome to be one." I see what you did there. I like that. I like that. There's a creator out there, there's a content creator who, is just very open about, like, he says he is a diagnosed narcissist. He is diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, and his channel is kind of about educating about that, and, like, he says he's in therapy. I have to find his channel name. I was watching it earlier today, but I've lost it. Um, but I know for some people that his channel is kinda, like, triggering to them, like, if they have been in a bad relationship with someone like that before. But I find some of it interesting because whenever I look into a disorder, no matter how, like, reviled it is in the media, or no matter, like, what nasty things people feel about it or have to say about it, or bad experiences we've had with it, if I'm gonna look at it, I want to know what it feels like from within that person's perspective. And, like, I think that's an important piece of it. Like, especially if you're talking about, treatment and helping people get better and maybe not hurt as many people. Um, narcissistic personality is notoriously hard to treat because usually they don't show up asking for therapy. But it can happen. It can happen. This is a great point. Kimmy's Playhouse says there's a difference between a crappy person or a crappy behavior and a narcissist. Yeah. You can be a crappy person without being a narcissist all day long, for sure. It seems like the term is thrown around in any toxic relationship. Yeah, I think so too. Um, I was in a relationship with somebody with bipolar disorder, and people thought that he was a narcissist, but really he that maybe looked like it when he was in a manic phase, but that wasn't really what he was like all the time. And the relationship became toxic. That had more to do with that dynamic between us and everything else that was going on. Um, yeah, Miss Dragon says only after narcissistic buzzword did I realize the what mother was. Oh, okay. I just thought of her as an evil, abusive B. I mean, it's possible she totally was. Like, it's possible she was totally like diagnosable, like legit narcissistic personality disorder. So on the one hand, it's like good that there's more media attention around it. But then on the other hand, I think that, it does get overused a little bit too. Oh, I have a random alarm going off. Sorry about that. Yeah, just as while we're discussing these things, Don Gloves gives me a good reminder. This discussion is not a substitute for a therapeutic relationship or a relationship with a medical doctor. Only your doctor or your clinician can like tell you if you have a specific disorder or diagnose you with something. And as always, if you are in a life threatening emergency, please dial 911 or go to your nearest emergency room. And then my channel description also has some good resources for crisis lines and things like that too, if you ever need them. Um, but I like to talk about these disorders as a concept, like for educational and entertainment purposes, and just to learn more about people's perspectives too. Because I think a lot of this is misunderstood, especially like how it feels to be the person with the disorder. Kimmy's Playhouse says it's funny because I was in a debate earlier with people in a borderline personality disorder group about empathy and borderline personality disorder. I experience cognitive empathy, but only affective empathy in certain situations. Oh, wow. Many with BPD say, and I think maybe you continued it. People think empathy issues only exist in narcissistic personality disorder. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, empathy is a heavy and difficult concept. Empathy, is different from sympathy in that if you empathize with someone, you kind of can feel what they feel and you can imagine what the situation is like for them and you can put yourself in their position and you can get inside that mindset and understand why they would make the decisions that they make and why they would act the way they act in that capacity. Um, and empathy issues can exist in all kinds of diagnoses, disorders, situations, not just narcissistic personality disorder. Um, Something that's kinda cool to me that I learned about a while back is what are called mirror neurons, which are, of course, brain cells, but they're a specific kind of brain cell. They're called mirror neurons because they fire when you see somebody else doing or saying something, but they're in the same part of your brain that would correspond with the part they use to do that thing. So an example of a mirror neuron reaction would be like if you see me, like, squeezing this fidget toy, and, so the parts of my brain that are making me squeeze this fidget toy are the parts that are motor neurons that control my hand and all this stuff. If your mirror neurons are firing, if they're working properly, then your mirror neurons in that part of your brain that control your functioning of your hand are going to fire when you watch me move in this way. And that's something that most humans have, but not all people, but there's variation there. Some people don't have them fire the same way. And there's kind of some question about whether does that have an implication in people's ability to experience empathy? Like, do they maybe just have a different mixture of brain cells or a different brain structure? I actually kind of empathize with this. Don Gloves says she went into a rage yesterday over pizza dough. You know, I can when you there's a dysregulation piece to borderline personality disorder, right? But not just borderline personality disorder, like, there's other reasons someone could be dysregulated emotionally and physically, and it's, like, in that moment and it's not necessarily even the thing that happened, it's maybe, like, things built up to the thing, and then in that moment it's almost like what I would describe as like an emotional seizure. Like you just kind of snap and you can't control it in the moment. And what I have had to do is I have had to get to where I feel really comfortable saying things like, I'm really overwhelmed. I need to leave this situation. I need to go take a breather. I need to go in the other room for a minute. You know, that's what I found is I have to change my environment if I get dysregulated like that. But it's very strange because, like, I don't get dysregulated over big things, like crises, like big important things, like there's an impending car crash or something like that. I don't get super dysregulated about that stuff. But this little stuff will sometimes, like if I'm already stressed out, that's the stuff that'll impact and cause me to flip my lid a little bit. Yes, yes, you've seen him. I didn't realize he interviewed other people with personality disorders too. I'll have to go back and look up his. his channel and ask you guys what you think about it. I'll go and take a look now, see if I can't find it. Kimmy's Playhouse says, I went into a diagnosed narcissist live stream one night and said I had borderline personality disorder. She said, "Oh, we love taking advantage of people with borderline personality disorder." Wow. At least she was honest, right? That's a weird thing. I appreciate honesty, even if it's brutal honesty. I actually like brutal honesty. Um, that's interesting. I'm curious as to like the dynamic there. I guess if we have borderline personality disorder, we get dysregulated easily, and we have this sense of like, people kind of like nothing feels stable in our world if we have those features of borderline personality disorder. Like we don't have a stable sense of self. We don't really know who we are. So as a result, we don't really have a stable sense of who everyone else is. And also as a result, we're always expecting everybody to leave. Like we're always expecting the other shoe to drop. We're always expecting whatever good thing we have to like go away or disappear. So we do all kinds of, wacky things to try to prevent that and try to keep that from happening. And I think that's at the heart of a lot of borderline personality disorder symptoms is the dysregulation, the feeling completely like out of control and overwhelmed in a moment. And also this like terror at possibly being abandoned and losing what you have that's good. Um, so I could see narcissists definitely taking advantage of that for sure, especially the fear of abandonment part for sure. Janet G says, I would be really interested in content on narcissistic personality disorder because my brother has it. It will help me understand him better because he's really difficult and toxic. Yeah, I know that a lot of people have been talking about this lately. And I've thought about like, well, do I have anything to add to this conversation? And I mean, there's a lot of great content out there about these disorders. So, I mean, if I add anything, I mean, what I would like to add to it is the ability to have a discussion with people, like a back and forth about it. And then to also, like my perspective, I want to look at it from what's it like from within that person's mind. What is that person, why are they doing what they're doing? What is their motivation? Um, what's keeping them in that pattern? Because even though that might be disturbing sometimes to go into for certain things, I think that you kind of have to if you're going to try to solve anything or make anything better. Now, I do have limits there. There's probably certain disorders I'm not going to try to get into the mind of just for my own sanity, but um, I'm really interested in figuring out what that's about and more about it too. Oh, cool. You'll be on Actuality in the morning on her channel talking about fibromyalgia. Great. Mary, did you share that link earlier up? Is that the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch channel you shared earlier? That's awesome. Love to see that. Love to see that. Exactly mocked. Exactly this. Self-awareness and narcissism rarely go together. And that's the thing, they can't. They can't. Um, at the heart of narcissistic personality disorder, that develops because somewhere when that person is a tiny, tiny person, they their sense of self is wounded so deeply that they never develop a sense of self. And so this image they create of this perfect person with all of these status symbols and all of these perfect things about them, it's a fake thing to cover over the fact that they don't have a sense of self, that they never developed that. And it comes from deep childhood trauma or wounding is where it starts. And if you were self-aware of it, if you became self-aware, like it's a defense mechanism. It's a really, really intense, heavy, almost bulletproof defense mechanism. Like that's why narcissism is so hard to treat because they've completely like split off from who they might have been genuinely to make this fake person so they don't have to face whatever terrible horrible wounding thing happened. Um so if they were to become self-aware, they'd have to face that. And for a lot of people that, that's too overwhelming. That's too painful to even think about. That they've shut off that part of their brain so much they just don't even know it exists anymore. Hey, Sassy Savage, thanks for coming to hang out with us. It's good to see you. I connected with you a little bit in the chat earlier. Like I felt like, yeah, I see you. Like she gets me. I appreciated that. Kimmy's Playhouse says, as someone with BPD, I'm very in tune with other people's emotions because I'm constantly reading their intentions, but I do not feel their emotions. Yeah, I think you brought up a good point is that there's a difference between like intellectual empathy and like affective empathy. Like intellectual empathy, meaning like, oh, I can imagine how they'd feel upset in that situation. I can sort of think about it. Um, but I don't like feel it with them. Like what you said earlier, affective empathy, like in your guts, in your heart empathy, that's like I feel it with them. And um I do have that. Like if I get to the point where I can start if I get really close to a person, I can start to confuse like my feelings with their own. Um so whereas narcissistic personality disorder, one of the criteria is that they lack the ability to feel empathy. Um they might they'd have to get a lot of training and therapy to like sort of learn how to imagine it, but it doesn't come naturally, at least not if that's their true diagnosis. Sassy Savage says, I'm a super sensitive empath. I gotcha. For as long as I can remember, I've taken on others' emotions, have had to learn how to shield myself. Oh, I hear you. I hear you. That can be really, really overwhelming. Like for me, I always hated crowds as a kid for this very reason. Um, because when you can kind of like pick up on what everyone's feeling in the room, if there's a lot of people, it can be really, really overwhelming, especially when you're a kid and you don't know how to like manage your emotions yet. So I've always been better in one-on-one or small group situations than I ever was in big crowds, unless I had the big crowd protection of like I was performing, like I was doing theater or something. Then there's like a natural separation between you and a crowd. Or if it was that kind of situation, like you're at like a dance club or something like that, and you're just like zonking your brain out and not paying attention to anything. But that's not super healthy. Kimmy's Playhouse says, Dawn, I've gone into a rage over many ridiculous things, but I'm thankful I've never been aggressive. I just pop off at the mouth. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I do. I will admit I have had times where I'll slam stuff down on the counter. Like I will do that. And that's something that I'm trying to work on because even though I don't want that to be upsetting. I don't want that to be scary to my kiddo, right? Because I mean, who knows how he's perceiving that. So, one of my strategies that I try to implement is when I get to that point, when I feel myself rising to that point of dysregulation, I try to leave the room and I go scream into a pillow, which sounds ridiculous, but if you scream as loud as you can, like into a pillow, like it really does feel better. Like and the pillow does a pretty good job of muffling it. Um, I've also gone and sat in my car and screamed in my car. That helps. Or um, I've like dropped to the ground and started doing push-ups or sit-ups. This all sounds really crazy, but when you're in that moment of feeling dysregulated, it's not just emotional, it's physical. It's like the best way I can describe it is like an emotional seizure. So I mean, for someone who's young and still figuring out what all this is, um, I mean, her therapist would be a good resource, but a key might be recognizing what works for her in those moments, kind of exploring different types of coping skills or things she could use. I'm not sure. I missed something earlier. My hands didn't move at all. What happened? I missed something. I missed the context. Hey, Miss Sunrise Dawn, good to see you. Thanks for coming to hang out. Yes, exactly. When it happens, it's a split and the adrenaline is intense. Yeah, it's overwhelming. It is not, at least for me, it is not and again, I've never been formally diagnosed, but I don't know, maybe I should be. But I identify with that feeling of dysregulation and that feeling of just overwhelm. And it's not a positive feeling. It's not a good feeling. And I actually saw not too long ago a really good interview and I will find it and link it on the comments later. but it was an interview with a psychiatrist who was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder in adulthood and realized that for her, it actually kind of developed around an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis, which sounds like really convoluted. But the idea being that she had a lot of sensory sensitivities with the autism spectrum and didn't have a way to manage those sensory sensitivities and didn't have the support to deal with all those emotions and that overwhelm. And then borderline personality developed around it. So I thought that was really interesting. And I wonder if that happens with more people than we realize is that there's some like sensory sensitivity that's we're not catching when people are small or supporting. Hey, Maya, good to see you. Maya, aka Allison Art Supply Hoarderland. It's good to see you. Mocked says, my biological grandfather probably was a narcissist, but I genuinely don't think it would have been presented as bad if he had gotten help rather than accumulated untreated trauma. Yeah, I mean, I think that you're probably right about that. If somebody gets treatment, um, it can make a big difference. And especially with something that affects your relationships to other people so deeply, if it's just left unchecked and we just are left to stick with our most maladaptive coping strategies and run wild with those, it does get worse and worse. And then we have relationship fractures and difficulties that are the result of it. And then it just makes our relationships worse. So I think you're probably right. I mean, I don't know if he was, but it most assuredly probably would have been better if he'd gotten help. I mean there's a thing as bad therapy, right? But as if you have a decent treatment team or peer support group, that's always better than no treatment at all, in my humble opinion. Yeah, me too, Kimmy's my house. That's wild. I'm very calm and cool in a crisis. It's everything else that causes me dysregulation. Yeah, yeah. Like someone could like walk in and tell me like, "Hey, the house is about to fall down," or "There's a gas leak." I'd be like, "Okay, what are we doing? Let's go. We got this." Um, but then the other day, like a spreadsheet I was working on for work didn't save correctly, and I'm like, everything sucks." I have to laugh about it because it's just it's wild. It feels flipped. I think it is the same guy, Kimmy's Playhouse, the person with narcissistic personality disorder with the YouTube channel. If he wears sunglasses, it's the same guy. I think it might be. Yeah, I think this is right, Kimmy's Playhouse. I think the fear of abandonment causes us to cling on to toxic relationships. Well, I know that is what happened with me for sure. Like it would take me a while to I don't know, like, it would take me a while to, like, get attached to someone, but then once I did, it was, like, intense, and I would put up with a lot more probably than I should have when I was younger, for sure. So I could see where someone with narcissistic personality disorder would easily take advantage of that tendency. Hey, Jesse Miller, Unboxings and More is here. Good to see you. Just listening here and winding down after a day. I'm glad that you're winding down with us. Um It's funny, we all got into talking about narcissism and personality disorders. I love how this chat and this live kinda with you guys, it goes everywhere and anywhere, and I love that. I love that. I don't personally date much because my favorite person is never someone I can date, says Kimmy's Playhouse, and I don't feel a connection on that level with people who aren't my favorite person. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Kimmy's Playhouse, she's referring to a concept within borderline personality disorder called the favorite person. And it's something that a lot of folks with borderline personality disorder will develop. Like, for whatever reason, we'll get really attached to one person and they become kind of like our favorite person. And they're the person that we want to go to for all of our emotional needs to be met. And they're the person that we will maybe project difficulty onto. And get upset with, and maybe engage in some of that splitting with where, they're our favorite person. They're the best person. They hung the moon, the sun, and the stars one day, and then the next day they're the scum of the earth, and then they're the best person in the world again. Uh, the favorite person is something that happens a lot with folks with BPD, but not everybody. Oh, good. I'm glad. We totally veered off from the title of the live stream, Miss Sunrise Dawn. So let's take a second there. Miss Sunrise Dawn says, and to answer the title of the stream, which was, How was your day? Really? Miss Sunrise Dawn says, My day was awesome. Couldn't have been much better. I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear that, Miss Sunrise Dawn. That's so cool. Miss says, Mine was okay. Lots of driving. Mon, you're not late. You're here exactly when you need to be. I'm just happy to see you. It's good to see you. Little sis and middle sis. I love that. Kimmy's Playhouse says, interesting. Sounds like kind of what I do with a favorite person. Create someone else and have an idea of who they are that they can't live up to. I think that's one thing I don't notice myself doing so much with borderline personality disorder. Typically get I don't typically end up with favorite people. I mean, I will connect with people sometimes, like because I have things in common with them, or we have a similar way of thinking or looking at the world. But I don't tend to see people in terms of like they can do no wrong. Like I typically don't see people like that. I see people as very, everybody is a very fallible human being. I think of everybody that way, and like I've always said, like there's a phrase like called never meet your heroes because then they won't be what you think they are. They'll be a fallible human being. And I've always thought, well, that's better. Like I don't want my hero to be a perfect person with no flaws because that if somebody has no flaws and no foibles, that means that they never had to overcome anything. Um, so or they don't have to overcome anything presently. So I don't know if I'll have to look more into the favorite person concept though. It's not an aspect I'm as familiar with, just to be totally transparent. Oh, Miss Sunrise Dawn, that's right. This is awesome. I got to see my grandbaby on an ultrasound and hear the heartbeat for the first time today. It was amazing and surreal. We find out in 10 business days what the gender is. That's so exciting. That's so exciting. I'm so thrilled for you, Miss Sunrise Dawn. That's so cool. That takes me back. That takes me back. I remember when I heard my little guy's heartbeat on the monitor for the first time, and it's something else. It's pretty emotional. I'm so happy for you guys. That's awesome. Oh yeah, good point, Sassy Savage. Sassy Savage says a sensitive empath also is a human lie detector, which is good and bad. Yeah, yeah, because sometimes it's better if we like, sometimes people lie for a good reason. Like, sometimes they're trying to spare your feelings or, sometimes it's a good reason. But and I'm not condoning lying, right? But you find yourself in a social situation where you're seeing through all the BS if you are a human lie detector that way. You can cut through all the BS and then you're not sure, okay, well, how do I handle this now? Is this a situation where I have to pretend that I am seeing that do I have to pretend that I believe it too? Or can I just say, you guys know this is all BS, right? Like, can I be open about that? And it's always kind of tricky to figure out which social situation you're in when you can do that. But I don't know if that was what you were thinking in terms of saying it was good and bad, but I'd like to hear more from your perspective. Yes, therapeutic primal scream. I do budget therapeutic primal scream at home all the time. I get the pillow and I scream into the pillow, or I go out to the car and scream in the car because I don't want to do that in the house and scare my dog and my kid. Like it's all about like reducing the potential of like harm to my child, basically. Like I say this all the time. I work really hard on my mental health and to be healthier and to handle things better because of him, because I don't want to traumatize him more than, is normal for a kid's childhood, whatever that is. But make no mistake, I am a flawed human being, you know? We all are. Miss Dragon says, I pick up on what others are going through. I knew when Bradley was sick before he said anything. I knew when his mom was having back problems and found out she needed surgery. Wow. So, I mean, you had a connection with him though. But yeah, I can see that for sure about you, Mist, is that you do pick up on what's going on with other people. At least I feel that from you, is that you pick up on things without people saying them. Like you seem to feel that from them. That's a pretty cool skill to have, but it can be overwhelming too sometimes. Oh, cool, Miss Sunrise Dawn. Okay, so my phone is going to sleep, so I have to turn on my charger real quick. So let me see. I'm gonna grab this picture, Miss Sunrise Dawn. I have a couple cool pictures from you guys that y'all sent me on Messenger, which makes me really happy. I always love when y'all send me stuff like that. Mhm. Oh, it was email. Was it email, Miss Sunrise Dawn? Yeah, it's probably email. Everybody has different. Oh, that's an appointment I have tomorrow. Well, my day was ups and downs. Whenever anybody asks me how my day was, I always have to stop and think, I don't know, how was it? Because there are usually parts of it that were great and parts of it that sucked, and then some in between. And I have to figure out, how do I summarize that all into one thing? How do I say it was good or bad? It's sunrise dawn. You guys. Oh my gosh. This is Miss Sunrise Dawn's grandbaby. Look. Oh my gosh. Look at the little head and the little nose. Oh. This little person is so cool already. I'm so excited for you. This is so great. Oh, the little legs and everything. Man, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Miss Sunrise Dawn. That just my heart. My heart grew 10 sizes today. Oh, wow. Hey, Sandy Wandy. I don't think I've said hi to you yet. Thanks for coming to hang out with us. We love the sunglasses narc. The guy who does videos about being a narcissist on YouTube. The sunglasses narc. There's a guy called HG Tudor who talks about narcissism as he is one. I wonder if that was who I looked at. There we okay, yeah, maybe that's a better way of describing it. Kimmy's Playhouse is that they're a favorite person, aka fixated person. Horrible, horrible thing. Yeah, it feels like yeah, I could see where that would be overwhelming for the person, like, who we've attached to in that way, and then also difficult for the person who is seeing them that way too, because then our mood becomes kinda tied up in their behavior and their mood, and, it becomes, it feels really volatile, I would think. I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing, Slow-mo. My favorite person is me. That can be a good thing. I mean, if it's truly, like, I've never really been able to say that. So that's an alien concept to me, like personally. But I love that that's possible. And I kind of believe that we tend to accept the type of love and treatment that we think we deserve. So if we are not our favorite person, then we're going to accept treatment that's far less than that. So if it rises to the point where you're disregarding other people's rights and feelings, then that's not a good thing. But other than that, I think it's kind of great if your favorite person is you. That could be good. Your day was okay, Sandy Wandy. If you would like to tell us more about why your day was okay, I'd love to hear it. But if you just want to stop there, that's cool too. I actually had to do a big old loud, ugly venting session today. Um, I am working out. like my last few weeks of the notice I gave to my corporate job before I move on to another job. And it's in this phase where they're just kind of like, we're trying to transition everything to other people. And it's like they want me to teach them how to do my entire job in like less than 2 weeks, as if it was the easiest thing in the world. And of course, that's not possible. And the people that I'm teaching it to know it's not possible to. And it's just, it's stupid. It's all stupid. So I had a moment. I had to go into the other room and I basically just like vented, like like vented really loudly, like lots of really loud, horrific cussing about it. Um, but it's true, better out than in. I think that's a true thing. Because I was able to go back and finish the workday, so I think that helped. Maya says, I was diagnosed with some kind of personality disorder by a psychologist many years ago. Then, a few years after that, a psychiatrist said, nope, not personality disorder. It's complex PTSD. So she changed it. I could see where that could be confusing. Like, I could see where someone could confuse the two. Um, Complex post traumatic stress disorder, like, that's going to affect the way we behave in a lot of situations. Um, it's going to possibly cause us to have like hair trigger reactions to things that other people wouldn't understand because on some level it reminds us of the trauma. And it's not just, and PTSD, like, make no mistake, it's not just going back to that traumatic place in your mind that causes stress. Physically, your body thinks you're back in that place whenever you have a trigger like that with PTSD. So your body sinks into that fight or flight mode. And when you're in that mode, it's survival mode, and it becomes incredibly difficult to manage your emotions and to keep from like bursting out or lashing out or something like that. So I could see where if they didn't understand your history of trauma, they might have made that mistake. But people can also have both, by the way. Like, people can have both. That happens. Really, Mom? That's exciting. Mom says, "Thank you. Just got a job. Hopefully, everyone has seen today's future." That's right. You sent me a picture of the future. I gotta check that. Mom is in Australia, like 16 hours ahead of me. So she sends me pictures of the future. It's daytime there, which I think is pretty fun. I don't know why. I'm endlessly amused by that. I say it every night. I probably never stop. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Ooh, this is the beautiful sky. About 16 hours in the future in beautiful Australia with those trees. Those trees are beautiful. Oh, wow. And there's clouds. Like, Mona sent me pictures before where there's not a single cloud in the sky and it's just blue, but the clouds are really beautiful there. Like, I don't know, they feel like, looking at them in the photos, they feel like closer almost. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it just feels really, really cool. And Miss Dragon sent me this cool photo of her view right now. You are looking out into the woods, and I love this. And I just want to go hiking and I want to go like trudging through those bushes and looking to see what's under them and looking to see what kind of critters and bugs there are. And if there's a creek, I want to walk through it barefoot. Um, I want to go play in the woods. I'm sick of being an adult. How about you guys? Scratch and Pete PA. Hi, good to see you. Thanks for coming to hang out. Mm, okay. Kimmy's Playhouse says, I've heard that. I've also seen Kant diagnosed with bipolar and then told years later it's actually borderline personality disorder. Another tricky thing is you can have both. It complicates things to the nth degree, but you can be diagnosed with both. Sometimes people do meet criteria for both. But yeah, this happens too, that many people are diagnosed first with bipolar and then told later it's borderline personality disorder. My understanding is that with bipolar disorder, you're going to see those mood swings and phases kind of lasting a little bit longer. Like, if someone's in a manic phase, and they've got that heightened energy, that lack of need for sleep, that grandiosity, that inflated sense of self, that's going to last for like a period of time, like for a period of days. And then the depressive episodes are going to last a period of time, like days too. Whereas borderline personality disorder, you can feel the entire gamut of human emotions in a single day or in a single few hours, which is what pop culture seems to think bipolar disorder is, but it's not. Even rapid cycling bipolar disorder is not the full gamut of human emotions in a single day or a few hours. Borderline personality disorder is where you see that intense dysregulation, where in the morning you feel like on top of the world, and then a few hours later at lunchtime, you feel like you don't even want to be around anymore. And then later you feel fine again. That's more borderline personality disorder dysregulation. Need to go to bed shortly. Well, thank you for coming to hang out, Kimmy's Playhouse. I appreciate you coming and sharing your perspective. I'm going to hop on over to, if I haven't subscribed already, I'm going to hop on over to yours and subscribe so I can see some of your content because I love hearing about this stuff from people who have personal experience. Like, that's my favorite. Like, give me somebody who has been diagnosed with something talking about their life any day over, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, like the psychiatrists and the experts out there and the people that research are awesome and they have a wealth of expertise and they are needed and very important in the field. But I love to hear about people's personal experiences and what it feels like for them. That's just that's just me. So let's see. I'm gonna hop over. Oh, where's my live? Sorry, guys, my phone is being very, very slow. Perhaps I need a new one, but I don't want a new one because I don't want to pay for a new one because I'm cheap. That is my burden to bear, I suppose. Gimmy's Playhouse. There you are. Go to channel. Awesome. Subscribe. Oh, you've got 49 videos. You got a lot of good videos up. Haunted house walkthrough. That sounds awesome. Okay, okay. I'll stop. Just like I'll just. I think. Yeah, Ballistic Crochet dropped your link. Okay, good, 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 good. Oh, and Slow Mo's gonna head to bed too. I enjoyed the live. I'll be back. I'm so glad, Slow Mo. Come back and hang out with us. I'd love to hear more about your perspective. It's so good chatting with you. Sassy Savage says, I feel like things fall out of my mouth, half joking and half serious, and could tell instantly I hit on something I wasn't supposed to know. Oh, yeah. Like you picked up on something, like the human lie detector bit, like you picked up on something and you're just kind of taken for granted that not everyone realizes it or knows it. And you just say, oh, well, yeah, this is, Jim is cheating on his wife, right? Everybody knows that. And apparently nobody knew that. That's just a fake example. I don't know Jim, and I don't, if your name is Jim, I'm sorry. It was just a random example. Mocked says, I built in filters before I speak for reasons. Yeah, yeah. I grew some pretty sophisticated filters when I was very young, because I kind of grew up in a setting where negative emotion was not okay to express. So I got really good at like keeping this kind of above the line look of everything is fine. Um, and that includes a lot of those filters. The only problem with that is I learned how to do that and it got to a point where like I couldn't give voice to the negative stuff and I couldn't figure out how to handle it. So that took a lot of work and put a lot of things back. Hey, this is good advice, Rick Spicer. Scream in the neighbor's shower. That way you don't bother anyone in your home and meet the neighbors if they're home. I love that, Rick. That's wonderful. We don't get to know our neighbors enough. I should just like go on over to their house, be like, "Excuse me, I just need a moment." Hey, look who it is, guys. Seventh son. Steve-O is here. Ahoy, ahoy. It's good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming to hang out with us. Doing dishes, but listening. Sometimes dishes have to be done. It's unfortunate, but it is the truth. Sassy Savage says, human lie detector thing for me is basically knowledge is power. Innocence and ignorance can truly be bliss. That's true. That's true. Sometimes power is a big, heavy thing that we wish we didn't have, right? Um, but I'm super nosy and I like to know things. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But ignorance could be bliss sometimes for sure. Especially when it comes to like big systemic things that there's not like a if it's a big thing that there's not an easy solution for, but you know it's what's making everything difficult for people, then that kind of sucks to know that. And it would kind of be nice to not realize it and kind of, yeah, be in that ignorance is bliss crowd. I have felt that way before about systems I've been involved in, like corporate systems and stuff like that. Like I can kind of see how like it's all a big like ruse or facade. And I try to explain that to people around me and they're all like, huh? So anyway, it's yeah, I hear you. I don't know if we're thinking about the same sort of thing, but I think I kind of get what you're saying. Hello, seventh. Rick Spicer says, "Hi, nice to see yous. Nice crowd. It is a nice crowd. I love the people that come hang out here. Y'all are awesome. Hey, look, it's Misha. Thanks for stopping by, Misha. It's so good to see you. Hey, y'all. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. I don't think I was in and out of various lives and things that we both frequent earlier today because I was on a bunch of work meetings trying to teach people how to do my whole job in less than a week because that's how they do it. Good luck to them. But I'm glad to see you here, Misha. Kimmy's Playhouse says, I think it's also common to have both borderline personality disorder and complex personality or complex post traumatic stress disorder. I have both. I think so too. I think that borderline personality disorder usually develops out of a trauma, you know. I think most personality disorders develop that way. I mean, if you think about it, a personality disorder or a personality period is it's the reliable way that we approach the world and that we try to approach relationships and that we try to solve problems. That's our personality. And if we have a way of doing that, that time and time again bites us in the butt and makes things works for us and people around us, then that's the point where you start possibly calling it a personality disorder, right? When it starts causing problems for you, functional impairment. But post-traumatic stress disorder, like a trauma, like especially that hits you like early on, um, so many other things are going to develop and change around that. Like the way that we develop as people is going to change based on that trauma that we experienced, and we're going to develop certain defense mechanisms and things. And a lot of the defense mechanisms of borderline personality disorder, like in a toxic environment, they probably helped. Like for example, borderline personality disorder has the feature of like always making these efforts to avoid abandonment, to avoid real or imagined abandonment. Well, if by some chance somebody was like a child who experienced neglect as a child, then that would have been a really adaptive behavior to have, to be like hyper aware of other people's feelings to make sure that we still get our needs met as kids. It only becomes maladaptive once you move into a healthy relationship or a healthy situation. And then you've got a person you're trying to relate with, and our habit is to always be trying to keep someone from abandoning us, but they're not doing that, and so they're just overwhelmed. um but so yeah, I think trauma has a lot to do with personality disorders. Yeah, tell us more about the job, Mon. I'm really excited for you for that. Yeah, we showed Mom's picture of the future. The future's looking so bright, we gotta wear shades. Love time traveling. I do too. Whenever I get pictures of like the wild, like what it looks like outside from folks in Australia, I think that's like time traveling every time for me. I love that. Huh. Misha tried tagging you Sandy Wandy earlier, but it wouldn't let her. So tired of this world. Ugh, this computer internet world that does not let us tag things or people as needed. Ooh, yummy. I want a peanut butter sandwich. That sounds tasty, Janet. Thank you for putting Misha's link up there, Mary. I appreciate that. All right, Kimmy's Playhouse. You sleep well. Thanks for coming to hang out with us. I'm really excited to watch more of your channel and get to know you better. And thanks for coming to discuss. I really appreciate it. Ooh, Janet G, thank you, says Mon. You gotta try peanut butter and banana sandwiches. They are heaven. I've heard this, but I've never tried peanut butter and banana. I'll have to try it. Oops, sorry. I use the touch screen to look at the comments, you guys, and every now and then I just bump the computer screen. So I apologize. There's Kimmy's Playhouse, link to her channel. Go check that out. Banana on peanut butter sandwiches or toast. I wondered who was gonna bring it up. No Vegemite on that? You guys, I have not revisited Vegemite yet. I need to. But I wanna make the brownies and I wanna do it like a cooking video, but it's hard to, like, get time to cook alone in my house. I have a little person, so it's hard to find time when, usually he's, like, fine and he's chill until I start doing something like cooking, and then suddenly he, like, needs all the things, so it's tricky, it's tricky. Maybe I'll just make them off screen and taste test them. We'll see. Sorry, guys, I'm gonna take a sip of water real quick. Maya says, "Yeah, my psychiatrist is quite sure I don't have a personality disorder. She's very experienced with this." That's good. You got a good psychiatrist. They're worth their weight in gold. The emotional dysregulating and the shutdowns I have is dissociations, and I get weird trying to regulate it. I hear you. I mean, dissociation is a way of trying to regulate intense or overwhelming emotions or something that reminds us of a trauma. Dissociating is it's kind of a survival mechanism, really. And like there's a spectrum like on how severe someone can dissociate. Like at least severe, like people can have what's called like road hypnosis. Like you can drive for miles and then be like, "Oh, I forgot that I was driving." But then at its most severe, you can feel like you've blacked out, not remember things, and that can be problematic because it could get in the way of your life and doing what you want to do. But it's a spectrum. It's not like all dissociation is bad and none, you know what I mean? But I could see where that would be a struggle. Oh, wow. Really? Really, Misha? Misha says, as I looked around my literal 4x4 area, I have allowed myself completely claustrophobic. Giant game of Tetris has become my fear. Fear, fight, flight, fawn, all exploding from the inside. Wow, Misha. You only gave yourself a 4x4 space? Girl, we need to get you a bigger space. Or, at least a window. I realized that this life I allowed myself because this is what I feel like I deserve. Because I started letting others' judgment and control break me down completely. I quit trying to fight, I guess. Sorry, I was trying to find the part 3. I guess, too, I thought that if I crouched into this little space, maybe people would see me less and leave me the heck alone somehow. Even then, I can't even have 2 hours by myself. Sleeping? So silly. The training allowances companies provide that should be the cornerstone of the success of each employee. Once had a career where I trained an average of 400 employees per year. Wow, Misha. Wow. So I don't know the details, but you said that you've allowed yourself like a 4x4 space. Is that to help you feel safe? I know you described it as claustrophobic. So that sounds like you're not enjoying that amount of space you've allowed yourself. That sounds like you're wanting to branch out a little bit. I'm not sure of the details there or the specifics, but maybe that could be, I mean, it probably would feel overwhelming to try to expand that really huge right now. So I don't know how you described, like, I don't know if you're penned in by it, like you're just in like a small like physical space or like you've got a lot of like clutter or like stuff around you and that's reducing it. Um Maybe starting to expand that a little bit could be as simple as like moving one object just to give yourself a 4x5 space instead of a 4x4 because I know it could be overwhelming to try to just like blow all the walls up right away. But I want that for you. You deserve more than a 4x4 space. You do. Everybody does. Vegemite and cheese. I would not have thought to do that. Mon says, I'm going to do a video about how to do Vegemite. Some people put too much on the bread or toast. Yeah, I need that, Mon. I need that. I don't think I put too much on when I did it. Like I was told to do like a lot of butter and a very thin layer, which is what I attempted. But maybe I overdid it without realizing it. Because a little goes a long way for sure. Really? I didn't know this. Mon says in Australia, peanut butter is called peanut paste. I kind of like that. I think I want to start calling it that. Peanut paste. I like it. Fairy bread. I don't know if I've made fairy bread ever. I'll have to try it. Mon does not believe that cheese and Vegemite is a sandwich, though. Oh, sorry, Janet. Cheese and Vegemite in a sandwich. Oh, okay, gotcha. Really? Really, seventh? I use Vegemite in my chili con carne. Really? I mean, I guess it could give that like savory, like kind of thing because it's kind of like bouillon, kind of has that flavor to it. Janet G says, I'm going to try some I'm going to buy some Vegemite. I want to try it and see what all the fuss is about. Uh, Listen, I will, like, if you feel comfortable, like, private messaging me a mailing address, I will just take out the third of a cup I need for my recipe, and you can just have the rest of mine. Save you some money. Email me if you want, if you're interested. Rick Spicer asks, "Fairy bread, never heard of it. Is it stuffing? Do you show something?" Mom says, "No, Rick Spicer. It's sweet sprinkles put on a piece of bread and butter." Ah, and of course, Rick says that sounds way tastier. Oh, I love you guys. Y'all are awesome. This is a good question. This is what we do. We go back and forth. We go serious and then we go silly. Sassy Savage says, "I have always loved trying to figure out why people behave the way they do." Me too. Me too. I feel you. I ask a lot of questions while using intuition and empathy to understand. Yeah, yeah. You just like you kind of described just like how I operate as a human, really. Like I'm genuinely endlessly curious about like other people's like lives and their situation and like why they think they do and why they do things the way they do and what they like and what they hate. Um I love learning about that. I'm not sure. Mon says drug and alcohol at mine sites or Perth Airport in Western Australia primarily, but may also go to the other side of Australia. I'm not sure. I think I missed maybe the first in a series. So I'm not sure what the context is there. Mine sites? Do you mean like sites where they're mining things, like mining for like gold or something or coal? They were. I think maybe I heard this somewhere. Mary, peanut butter and banana sandwiches were Elvis's favorite. I think yeah, I think maybe I might have heard that. I'm not sure. Rick says, "Old turkey to young turkey. When you get old, you're not going to like bread." What? Is it because of the stuffing? Because bread is in stuffing and it goes in the turkey? Am I following? I feel like I might be following. Sassy Savage says, "My neighbor used to eat banana and mayo sandwiches." I don't know, man. Mayo and banana? But you know what? I will try anything once. Almost anything. I will try almost anything once. And then maybe a second time just to make sure I hated it if I hated it, just to make sure it wasn't an off time. So I probably will try Vegemite one more time just to make sure that wasn't an off day because I'm a weirdo. But that's just me. Oh, so we've got another vote for the Susan P says, "Sassy, my husband eats the banana and mayo sandwiches too." Well, heck, apparently this is a thing. Okay, I guess I'll have to try it. And he's from Alabama, so perhaps this is an Alabama thing? I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point, Rick. Funny how each person needs a certain food input, chemical balance, and different input, same goal. Science is cool. It is really cool. Like, I mean, all people have like a basic need for nutrition and calories every day, but like what what sets off people's taste buds and what makes, what people crave is always different depending on the person. Really sassy. Sassy Savage says, I did corporate training and public speaking for 20 years before corporate politics caused so much stress it almost physically and mentally destroyed me. I would love to hear more about that experience you had, Sassy Savage. I've been working in a corporate setting for 7.5 years now. And yeah, I'm leaving for a reason. There's a lot about corporate politics I'm not a fan of, and a lot about just the way things run that I'm not a fan of. So I think that's fascinating, Sassy Savage. I'd love to hear more about your experience and what kind of work you did, if you feel comfortable sharing it. Janet G says, Kristen, nice offer, but would they let it Oh, that's right. That's right. You're in Canada. They might not let it over the international border. I don't know. They might not. Oh, that's right, guys. Awakened Misha shared Mary from Blessed to Crochet's link because she's doing a birthday giveaway on her channel. Misha is just saying, "Oh, I missed it," but then remembered Mary's a June baby, so we're good. So we're good. So go check out Mary's channel for that birthday giveaway for her birth month. Mm. Misha says it Sassy Savage, it does that to you. The drama and judgment and lack of concern for those backs they make their money off of can do a number on any of us who have empathic tendencies. That is ultimately what has happened with me over the years. I can relate to that quite a bit. Amish peanut butter. What? We have a recipe, you guys. 1 cup of light corn syrup, creamy peanut butter, and a cup of marshmallow cream. That sounds delicious. That sounds delicious, actually. Like fluffy, sweeter peanut butter. What? That sounds awesome. But what makes it Amish, I wonder? I don't know, but it sounds delicious. Yeah, exactly, Misha, because we are all our own special kind of spice, darling. That way, sometimes the right ones get together and bam, perfect recipes ensue. I love that. I love that, Misha. Like sometimes you just jive with the person. Sometimes you just connect with them without even like spending a whole lot of time talking to them. Like sometimes you just kind of go, "Hey, yeah, like I get you and you get me and we can hang." It's a pretty cool thing when it happens. Do you think the peanut butter and mayo is a Southern thing? So I'm from Texas, like, I'm from the Dallas area. I've never heard of it, but that doesn't mean it's not a Southern thing, or maybe it's just not a Texas thing. Texas likes to think of it itself as, like, separate from everywhere else, so Oh, no, Mocked, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to trigger anything. Mocked says, "Now I'm really awake. Mayo is one of my main food aversions." Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll try to tone down the mayonnaise talk. That's upsetting. Does it bother you even to, like, hear about it? Or, I mean, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but just curious. Peanut butter on a sausage biscuit, Susan P. I'm thinking about that. Okay, I could see how that could be good. I could see how that could be good for the corporate situations. Sassy Savage says, "Awakened, I absolutely agree. When people were getting attacked by proxy, I had to leave." See, you guys had souls. That was it. That's why you couldn't stay in corporate forever. You had souls. That's the problem. Um, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I get to know you. Mon says, "Kristen, how can you give away Vegemite?" Well, because I love my friends and I wanna share things with you. No, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't a big fan of the way it tasted, but I will, I'll give it its fair shake. I will. Oh, you're doing a premiere tomorrow at 9:15? Mary from Blessed Do Crochet is doing a premiere. Is that of the birthday giveaway? Either way, premieres are really cool because it's like you have the video set to go live at a certain time, but there's a live chat around it. So even though the host is not necessarily live, you can hang out and connect and chat. So I like those premieres. That's a cool concept. It's pretty neat. Ooh, Danielle Ulrich says a Vegemite was a gimmick kitchen appliance when I was young. What? That was a long time ago now, but could swear that was the name. You weren't careful, your knuckles ended up in salad. Oh no. Like it was a salad chopper or something like that? Oh dear. I don't know if we want fingers in salad. No, 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 no. Oh, I love this. Rick. All right, Miss Dragon. Have a good rest. Have a good sleep. Thanks for coming to hang out with us. Take care. Yeah, I'm curious how many calories is going to be in that Amish peanut butter. It does sound fattening. Okay, mocked. Don't worry, the coughing and sneezing kept me awake anyway. Are you sick, mocked? I'm sorry you're sick if that's the case. Hmm. Coughing and sneezing sucks. I hate that the worst, like when you're trying to sleep and get your rest so you can feel better, and then all the sinus stuff stops you from resting. I like Theraflu for that. Not medical advice, it just helped me. I hope you have lots of fluids and are taking care of yourself if you are sick. Sassy Savage says, I loved the job and was damn good at it. Had numbers, made a name for myself and the company around the world. Some didn't like my success. I fought for the employees. Well, it sounds like you were a good person to have there. Like, if you were fighting for the employees, like, that's rarer than it should be. That's really cool. That's really cool, Sassy. Danielle, I don't think you're any more all over the place than the rest of us. I think it's okay. Like, we're talking about personality disorders and then food and then jobs. That's what we do. Janet G says, I make a delicious stew called West African ground nut stew. Ooh, a moosewood recipe. One of the ingredients is peanut butter, hence ground nut. West African ground nut stew. I wonder what else is in it. That sounds really intriguing. I would try that. I've never tried peanut butter on pancakes, Misha. Misha says peanut butter plopped right on hot pancakes just off the griddle. Oh yeah, hee hee. Plus, I'll share one of my favorite Indian fry bread recipes. I've never tried peanut butter on a pancake, and I don't know why. Okay, Mock says, essentially, I'm German and don't love mayo. You're equally desensitized and disgusted at some point. Gotcha, gotcha. I love this sassy savage. Sassy savage says, I didn't care about the money. I cared about employees. Happy employees made more money. But once they left me, they were mistreated. When I spoke out, I got attacked. And that is wrong. And I wish that more people like you were encouraged to remain at corporations, to keep them ethical like that and treating their employees well. And I agree, usually happy employees do a better job in general. I mean, so it's kind of short-sighted as well. Oh, I see, Mon, your job. You were describing your job. Mon says, so I'm going to work sites, Lamine sites, coal, etc., and testing staff to ensure they're not drunk or intoxicated with drugs, etc. Wow, Mon. So I can see where that would be really important because it's not safe to go down into a mine if you're drunk or intoxicated. So, and not safe for them or the people around them. That's interesting. That's cool. So, like, will you be doing like on-site testing and things like that? Funny story. For a little while, I worked in a lady's private counseling practice. Like, I saw some clients for her there for a while, and I like filled in for some groups and things like that, some substance abuse treatment groups. But then she also had a separate business that she ran out of the same office, for mandatory drug testing for employees. and the Texas Department of Transportation would send her people. And so that was one of the things she trained me on doing was, like, taking people's, like, cups of like, the process for having them go, like, pee in a cup and, like, the whole, like, shebang thing, and then, like, testing and, like, documenting the test results and stuff like that. It was really interesting. I've also taken people's blood before, not for that job, but as a research assistant in undergrad. We were measuring the relationship between, like, cholesterol and other things, and, so I would take people's blood through a little pinprick. It was interesting too. "Well, it's not really authentic," says Misha, "but some of us Okies who are too lazy to make the real stuff. You ready for it?" So Misha is posting a recipe, you guys, so take your screenshots of the recipe now. The can of Pillsbury biscuits, 2 saucers of the same shape. Take a biscuit and squish, then put in the deep fryer and pull it out when it floats with beans, lettuce, tomatoes, onions, cheese, and sour cream. Indian tacos. That sounds delicious. Now I'm hungry. That sounds great. Sassy Savage says, "Okay, I'm done. LOL. So happy to be out of that world." How long ago if you're I don't know if you mean you're done, like you're logging off to go to bed or you're done just with that line of work, but, how long has it been since you left? I'm just curious if this is, like, more recent or longer ago. And I agree with Rick Spicer. You do sound like a tough chick. Strong women make them scared. "Not me," says Rick. "Strong women understand me." I love that. Love that. Mon said, "Oh, we got recipes now. I'm excited." Mon says, "So I make South Africa curries with red kidney beans, maybe like chili beans, any meat, potatoes, beans, or peas, and the red kidney bean." That sounds tasty. Misha was like, "That sounds like a great job, except if it's your analysis." I mean, I guess you do, but like when I had to take I mean, you wear gloves and hopefully you get a polite person who like wipes off the outside of the cup, but if you don't, you wear gloves anyway. That's just I don't know. It is what it is. Urine is urine. Janet G says onions, garlic, eggplant, zucchini, tomatoes, tomato juice, ginger, cayenne, coriander, sweet potato, peanut butter. Serve on rice with peanut butter. That sounds really interesting. I'm gonna have to try that. Ooh, that's important. Mona saying of her job, on-site testing, and also at the airport before flying out to different sites. I did something similar for the Justice Department. A guy has come back pregnant? What? No female hormones. How did that happen? I have to find there's gotta be a part 2 here. I'm looking for the part 2. Here we go. No. And one says, and females putting condoms in themselves to try and get clean specimens. Trust me, I've seen fake penises. Wow! So people have tried all kinds of things to put one over on the drug testing. That's wild. That's wild. Yeah, it does sound like an interesting job. Mock says keeping employees happy is the smart way to run a business. Otherwise, they're going to look for something else and you got a bad reputation. For sure. Yeah, for sure. That's what I've seen happen a lot. You left in 2018. Okay. So that sounds like it wasn't that long ago, but I guess at this point it kind of was. But yeah, it was like 6 years ago now. It doesn't seem that long ago. Um, I've been working in my corporate job for 7.5 years and I'm just now leaving. It took me a little while to figure out it wasn't gonna be a good thing for me to stick with. And for mine, I mean, I didn't do the public speaking like you did. Um, I I worked in utilization management and utilization review for a health insurance company, which is that's a really random it sounds like a jumble of words to most people, but basically it's the department that receives requests to authorize things to be paid for. Oh, wow. Misha says, I was the same way though. The training job was created because I had risen so easily out of 16 stores. Mine were all within the top 100 out of 3,200 stores in the US and Canada. We made things fun. We became family, spread it all over. Never more loyalty, family of eclectic weirdos. We were incredible. Aw, that sounds like it was really good when it was good. That's awesome. And I can see it sounds like you plugged into a community really well there, and it makes sense to me. You seem to be plugged into this community so well, and you're such an important part of it, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Peanut paste. I like this. Sassy says, "Awakened, you sound like me. It was important to me to be three things: fun, caring, and authentic." Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Almost 20 years to totally get out. Well, yeah, that's the thing. So mine is corporate always pays you more. It just I mean, it always does. And that's where they get their hooks in, right? At least for me, that's been my experience. Like so I trained to be a therapist, to be a counselor. I have my LPC, but I haven't been in practice for 7.5 years because I work for the health insurance company's behavioral health department. And early on in my career, like, they were offering to pay me way more than I could ever make as a therapist, and at the time, I had a baby and, all kinds of other stuff going on. So, I thought, "Well, I'll do this for now," and I ended up staying a lot longer than I intended to. And it got there's a lot of things I don't love about health insurance and the way it works, and perhaps I will say more after I officially no longer work there. Perhaps. Perhaps. And after I review some other things I may or may have signed when I became employed there. Misha says our competitors took over so many stores, they tried to do the same at my home branch. They did interviews with customer base locally, other businesses, and even my employees. They did not buy my town. Wow. Wow, Misha. Oh no. Mock says, also known as why my brother's future former employer might lose a lucrative contract because people keep leaving. One even chose the ICU during COVID to get out of there. Yeah, that means something. If the situation is so bad that people would rather go work in the ICU during COVID, then that tells you something about your culture and your morale in your workplace. Oh my gosh, really? Seventh, really? My seventh son says Mike Tyson talked about getting his infant son to provide his supply of clean urine for his customer made fake penis. Wowza. That's going above and beyond. Like, that's doing too much. That's wow. But people get desperate, I guess. Who am I to judge? Misha says, that's why I love this community we are building. Sassy Savage, it's like so many of us who still have a heart or finding each other, our tribe. Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel that too. I feel that too. And yeah, unfortunately, some companies are worse than others, unfortunately. Like at first, I felt like the corporate setting I worked for was better because they paid me more and I had better benefits. But I don't know, for my particular situation, how the money is made and how the sausage is made is what's the most distasteful to me that I can't hang with anymore. Oh, Rick Spicer says, I'm going to get a hold of the Blind Institute and see if they want to partner to release two games for the sighted and blind. Just going to try. Could get a yes. That sounds really cool, Rick. You'll have to tell us more about the game that you're talking about. Sassy says, Yep, money was great, and I really truly loved my job and my employees. I just didn't care for the people coming in and moving up that wanted my job. I basically created my position by seeing a need. That's the, I mean, that's really cool when you can do that. Like, I mean, if you can do that, then maybe you should have your own business, I think. Like, I mean, it sounds like you thought outside the box and you took initiative and you didn't, wait around for someone to tell you precisely what to do. Oh, sorry, I bumped my microphone, you guys. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty badass, actually. You know, it's the kind of people you want to have their own business and run their own things that can change the world. Catching up with the chat. Oh, I think I'm caught up now. Misha says, I can't even keep up with myself. Too funny. The pregnant drug test for a male for mom's new job with the drug tests. So it sounds like we all had days with ups and downs, I would say, to the question of how was your day really? I always think it's that question, like, how was your day? How are you? It is always it always gives me pause because I always have to take a beat to figure out, does this person really want the answer, or is this that polite social convention way that people just ask it? And if it's someone that I don't know very well, I usually assume, okay, this is just the polite version of it. So I'll just, give them some like basic thing like, oh yeah, pretty good. How about you? But when it's someone closer to me, when it's like a friend or a family member, then I'll have to take a minute to go, actually, if it's a close enough person, I'll just say to them, "Do you mean really, or do you mean like the social version? Like, how much detail do you want?" Like I'll just ask people about that stuff now. Like, do you want the long answer or the short answer, the real answer or the fake answer? Um, Generally speaking, when I ask people how their day was, I always want to know. Like, I really want to know. I don't want just back like this little, "Oh, it's fine. How about you?" Like, I really want to know. And really wanting to know about people's lives and how they're doing is probably why I'm not super productive in my corporate job right now, because I would rather spend more time with individuals, helping them get through their day or just listening. That's what I love to do. Oh, wow. They produced word salad, digging their heels in that a lawyer didn't even fully comprehend. So I think they chose going down. I'm not sure of the beginning of that. I may have lost a comment in the middle or something. Oh, I love this, Misha. Misha says, "We have built a nation." Sounds like Sassy Savage. "I'm building an army myself to fight for those whose voices aren't being heard. Maybe that's why we didn't meet earlier in life." I love that. I love that. Woo, Sassy Savage. This is cool. "I built a curriculum in emotional intelligence communication in call centers in both sales and guest relations." I love that. I would love to, like, you built it? That's awesome. Drop me an email if you'd ever be interested in coming on and just talking about like what kind of emotional intelligence curriculum that you created. That sounds really cool. That sounds fascinating to me. Oh wow, and it was used in a major hotel group around the world. Well, I don't know, maybe it's copyrighted now and you can't, but I'd love to hear more about that. That's really cool. Because emotional intelligence is one of those things it's super important for functioning, right? Like, you can have an IQ way up high in the stratosphere, but if you can't relate to people, you can't do much with it. So, I think that's fascinating. Alright, you guys, it's getting to be almost 1 o'clock in the morning over here in my time. How are you guys doing? Y'all still awake? I got 4 people still hanging out. So, what I'm gonna do here is I am going to post a couple of links. And I just remembered I have them in my, uh, little document here. Let's see. And sorry, you guys, I couldn't see the chat for a second. As always, I think everybody here, I know you guys from there, so you probably don't need it. But in case somebody shows up on the replay, I always like to post the link to the lifeboat, which is kind of the reason I have a channel, because they encourage you to create a channel. If you think you're the only one, then no one can relate to you. Try starting a channel and you'll find out you're probably not the only one. Um, the lifeboat has been a great help to me in finding a community and finding people that support me and that I can support back. And it's been life changing. So I always like to share the lifeboat link. And then after this, if you just like are not done chatting, hanging out, and you just need to, keep hanging out for a while, our friend Cricket over at her channel, Chow Yun Smut, does a really, really great live show in a little bit, usually around 1 a.m. Central, my time. Um, every now and then she takes a night off. Like she's a human like the rest of us. Um, but let's see. I'm going to share the link to her channel. I don't know if she's got the live up yet. No, okay, but I will share the channel. Do. Copy link. Mhm. Mhm. I can see why people feel the need to like sing and make silly little songs when they're like in the midst of doing something and there's like dead air. There we go. And that is the link to Chow Yun Smut's channel if you want to go hang out over there. And looks like I love seeing you guys connect with each other. It looks like y'all are exchanging like Facebook messages and stuff, which reminds me, some people here said that they would find it fun if I started a Facebook group for folks that like to hang out here. And I mean, I think I'm in the Lifeboat Facebook group with most of you, but if you just want like a smaller one, like we can do that too. I'll set one up. So be on the lookout for that. And thank you so much for coming to hang out tonight, guys. I am always and forever pleasantly surprised when anybody shows up to this besides me, and I'm not just talking to myself. So, thank you so much, and I will see you guys over at Chow Yun Spots or tomorrow in one of the other places we all tend to hang out on the internet. Y'all have a great night. Mean it.